Hello, Mr. Heva Street's Research in Contemporary Issues class. This is Brendan Smith's and Kieran Bledsoe's podcast on
how climate change affects agriculture.
Yes. Now, before we begin, let's just go around the room and introduce ourselves. My name is Kieran Bledsoe.
I'm Sophie Tomasi.
I'm Cole Nelson.
Levi Robinson.
Christian Vaca, being blocked by Brendan.
Brendan Smith.
I think we'll just jump into it.
So let's first talk about how climate change affects food production. How would you see it? How would you see it in the future years if the climate kept like spiraling, like in this very like drastic like polar opposites?
You don't have to raise your hand.
I think we do.
Okay, well, it depends on like what you mean exactly by climate change. Like if you're talking purely like how the weather is going to affect agriculture, I mean there's a lot of things that could potentially happen. But if you're talking about how it's affecting like animals, for example, bees have been on the endangered species list for God knows how long. Yeah, for God knows how long. And also because of climate change, many other species of insects have been just declining rapidly, their populations, and scientists can't figure out any explanation as to why other than their climates are rapidly changing. So when you don't have insects, you can't pollinate any of our food. And
John Smith, everybody!
You can't say
See,
things like
with climate change, though, not only does it, moving out of the realm of just, like, the U.S., where, we're like, the bees are all dying and we're all losing our, not exotic foods, but, like, our foods that we like to eat. If you look at, like, poorer nations, the insects, it's going in the other way, and, a warmer climate is making more insects, which are ruining crops.
Indeed, yeah.
Which isn't going to kill a whole bunch of people.
However, these because I got this information off of National Geographic. These insect populations, the data was recorded in Germany, which is in the mid-European region, and they've also conducted other studies around the world. So either the climate is getting too hot for insects to reproduce and or thrive effectively, or it's getting too cold for them to do so. Yeah. So either way, insect populations are declining to the point where we can't pollinate our food properly.
Yeah, it just depends on what the natural climate of the area is, because when you're talking about poorer nations, I'm assuming you're also talking about like hotter nations too.
And then as far as weather goes, like if you have a climate that is mostly good for producing like fruits, and all of a sudden it's getting cold or it's getting too hot for these zones to produce the correct like fruits and vegetables that they normally grow, they either have to find a different type of food to grow on the land, which can be hard because especially a lot of poorer nations, a lot of these civilians are farmers. But yeah, I mean, I said, with flooding and then droughts, if you have too much water, you flood all your crops and or kill all your animals. If you don't have enough water, you kill all your crops and or animals. Everything is so balanced that one little thing that throws it off, like a slowly and or rapidly changing climate, because in some areas it is more rapid than others. It can affect us greatly, even if we don't see it right away. Because especially you have to take into account that while we live in the U.S. and we're a fairly rich nation where we can keep our own population stocked full of food and we have reserves of food, not every nation has that, and they depend on their civilians farming their own food to survive. And
there was a study somewhere.
Thank you.
That a worldwide study that predicts that in reality we're all worried about climate change, but climate change is
worried about us.
Probably going to affect poor nations more than wealthy nations in every way.
Yeah.
Because the reduction of they already don't have a lot of clean water.
We have more equipment we can do.
We can deal with it, right? But
that's what I was going to say.
This is everything is going to get worse for them. Where us, we're going
to be mildly inconvenienced by it until it gets to the point where it's not mildly.
Eventually, when it gets to Mad Max levels, we're all going to be at the same. It's all going to be real bad.
Okay, but for 100 years of climate change, we could probably survive pretty well. But these poor nations are going to die.
And honestly, you can say what you want about what's happening in the future, but like in the now, like we've already had this year has been crazy with natural disasters, and I'm in a natural disasters class currently, so like I know some numbers about it. All of the natural disasters that have hit the United States, like without a doubt, it's because of climate change. Hurricanes need waters that are more than 80 degrees Fahrenheit to form, and waters are warmer. So the likelihood of major hurricanes has just gone up, and we've seen it happen this year already. And the impact from these natural disasters has normally, like in America, around this time, around like harvest time, we see an economic increase of like 2%. These natural disasters have caused so much damage that there has been no increase. Like, our economy has taken a massive hit, and it's gonna, if things like that happen, and we've seen it again with the wildfires in California, those specifically have targeted vineyards. Not targeted, they don't get to choose where they are.
No, I think they do.
Like,
You're in a natural
So
disaster.
what this does, if global food supply is damaged by this climate change, this also means that for poor countries, it's worse for them. Like, it hits them 100 times harder because food prices are going to like massively increase for all of these nations now, and so that means that people aren't going to be able to get access to what they need.
Yeah, because again, especially if you live, for example, I know a lot about farming in the U.S. because my dad, that was his major.
Now, I want to move to that because I think climate change deniers might be my least favorite kind of person. Because when you're a climate change denier, you're not just like being a bad person to people now, you're contributing to the murder of, not the murder, but the deaths of millions of people in the future.
Hold on. A lot of what I've heard, the argument is, well, the climate changes, every so often, and it's going to happen regardless of whether or not humans do anything about it or not.
I mean, like, that's
Which I
true.
do agree, somewhat, there is evidence of the climate just changing dramatically
Well, that's
without
definitely
human
true.
interaction
But that's
whatsoever.
natural.
However,
It's
it is scientifically proven that we are speeding up the
Yeah.
process.
Over a
That's
long
the
period
issue.
of time, that's just something that happens.
But Kieran, my one thing with what you just said, and I'm so, because I know since I'm like basically playing devil's advocate, people will be like, "Oh, climate change denier." That's so not me. But like, can basically do nothing about it. You and me. It's people who are in charge of like policy. So like your local neighborhood climate change
But
denier.
who votes
Here's
for
the thing,
those-
exactly,
for
no,
these
we
people?
can influence other people who can vote for people who
I
are
think-
idiots.
If constituents don't care about the issue, then neither are the people in charge.
And here's the thing, your local climate change denier or whatever, how do you know they're not getting involved in local politics, which
I think
It goes
that
higher and higher units.
any person, even just a regular citizen in America has like more say than like in any other country in the world.
Yeah.
Because our voices are projected to literally everywhere else because we have such like power with the media and stuff. So
you can't
we have the Electoral College.
The most important thing, I think, in the climate change conversation is that we need to realize that people who are denying climate change right now, people who think that, my country's a big country and we'll be alright no matter what, they're the worst part. They're destroying the world for their own
what if they
No,
were,
here's
what if they
one
were in
thing
like
that I
any
think-
other country ever? And if they were going through such hardships, would
They
be
would
like-
have no choice but to accept it as true because we have the, as rich Americans, we have the ability to ignore problems that don't affect us, but they don't because it is affecting them. I'm glad that there are people out there that
Like on
don't
an
have to
individual
deal
level.
with it, but there are people that do have to deal with it right now.
Countries that speed up climate change more, like producing the most
Okay.
emissions. The countries that don't do anything really to excel it, they suffer the worst because of like emissions that go everywhere.
I see what you're saying.
Now, what could happen? How do you think that we could form some sort of alliance? Because, United States, China, Russia's major powerhouses of producing like emissions stuff. How would we go about like coming with an alternative to because products from like around the world from China, it's a massive powerhouse that no outlets or anything would be the same without China's massive production speeds.
Well, I mean, the thing is, basically, here's what you have to do, because there is a solution, without a doubt, and we're basically just not doing it for some reason. What you have to do is you're going to take maybe a decade or a couple decades of an uptick in production to start pumping out solar farms, wind farms, and hydroelectric facilities. And once you get those facilities in place, like, and we've seen it in the United States, the coal industry's dying out. Like, we are not burning as much amount near as much coal as we used to. And like eventually, like I said, maybe like take a sacrifice and really pump out production for a couple years, and things like there will be an increase in the amount of CO2 we put out for a couple years.
Well, the thing
but then
is,
once you put that new infrastructure in, you basically eliminate the need for coal or natural gas.
Exactly. We can have like efficient energy. We're just actively.
We're just
it's not doing
You'd be
anything.
surprising how you would be surprised by how relatively inexpensive it is as well. Like
My
so much
father.
cheaper.
Wind
But
power
here's the
has
thing,
wind
they
power has
can't-
become like 200% cheaper in just the past 5 years.
But here's
And
the
it's
thing:
also-
because it's so much cheaper, they can't justify charging as much.
I don't think that statistic was right. It wasn't completely correct, but it's like
It's
that's
become a
not
lot
just coal is
cheaper.
a
That's
non-renewable
the,
resource, so like we're gonna run out.
yeah, same with oil. Like
Yeah. So now it might actually be good. So like poor countries that haven't really gotten like they've depended on others to like supply with their energy. If we can get them to do start to produce like renewable energies and stuff, then they can become also like powerhouses to try to help the problem here. Because clearly we have given our power from like the traps that we fall into, like very inefficient ways of protecting the earth as well. Like protecting the earth.
Protect Earth. The U.S.
He protect.
But like my father has a friend.
but mostly he pollute.
Who has like covered his roof. I don't even know if he's covered. I think he's installed like 3 solar panels, and he very literally he gets money now from the power company. He sells power back to the power company. That is one house with just a couple on his roof, and he is earning money from this. Yeah,
speaking.
He sells his power to the power company.
Speaking of one, now I can't tell you if this is real or not because this is something I read somewhere once. But I did read somewhere that there were some people who were really against solar energy because they thought that it would somehow deplete the sun.
I was so ready to look it up and
People are smart. This is why we go to high school.
I'm sorry, that
draining
has
the
to be
sun.
big. That has
The
to
ants.
be big.
It's the ants.
It's the ants.
It's the ants.
What we do? We gotta get all the ants.
Kill
we
all
have
ants.
Kill all
wait,
ants.
hold on,
Kill
I
sun.
found it from the Independent,
No.
.co.uk.
That's not real.
U.S. town rejects solar panels amid fears they suck energy from the sun, cause cancer, and will harm house prices. Let me see it. Here.
Well, that like nuclear fusion reactor
This is-
in the sky is gonna like drain
This
out.
is real, and it's got all the facts and everything. Members of the public in Woodland, North Carolina,
North Carolina.
There we go.
expressed their fear and mistrust at the proposal to allow Strata Solar Company to build a solar farm off Highway 258. During the Woodland Town Council meeting, one local man, Bobby Man. It's
Bobby Man.
It's M-A-N-N. It's his actual
Bobby
last name.
Man.
Say no more. We know
All right.
everything we need to know. His name is Bobby Man.
Said solar farms would suck up all the energy from the sun, and businesses would not go to Woodland. Oh no! Jane Mann, his wife, a retired science teacher, said
you
she
go.
was concerned that the panels would prevent plants in the area from photosynthesizing,
Okay,
stopping them
retired?
from growing.
Retired or fired? Because
I want to be Bobby Man.
Retired.
Oh my god!
Bobby Man.
Well, I think that's an entirely different issue because
I think the issue there is the public education system in the United States.
it's kind of horrible.
That's a
But
whole
anyway.
different-
All right, well, here's this.
Agriculture, but we kind of just don't have everything.
I mean,
but I want to
water
get back onto water, specifically with the fisheries. Okay, so they're already
This fish.
what word?
we're
did you
already
say to me,
suffering.
Brendan?
We're already suffering from overfishing and water populations. But like with climate change, the stresses on fisheries is going to worsen. Like if there's going to be a massive depletion, you're not going to get your sushi. You're not going to get, and it's also going to affect. It's going to affect like where certain like fish and stuff like where they move around in the ocean. Like there's certain patterns that they do.
Yeah, like
And
the
it's-
shark migration. or
There
something
are
like
currently islands of trash
yes,
just floating in the ocean. Bigger than states we have.
That also goes back to plastic with the problem. Like, the problem isn't like, oh, you should recycle stuff. The problem is the people who actually like mass produce plastic and stuff and just like put like thousands of plastic bags in stores when really we should be advocating for bringing your own bag. Bring your own bag. That's like the main problem. That's like so.
Wow, that's my favorite song by System of a Down.
Thank you.
You know what?
And also with the climate change, like
It's a song by System
it's a massive catalyst for like diseases like all over the world, especially marine disease outbreaks. So also people are going to be chowing down.
The Marines are such a brave group.
They're going to be chowing down. They're going to be chowing down, and they're not going to know that they're getting like every disease.
Getting like every disease.
Well, here's the thing. I believe it was Al Gore.
Oh.
There we go.
Stop your sentence.
There we go.
Yeah.
Al Gore.
Why is this?
I believe it was Al Gore who,
What?
when
This is an A+.
I think the last time he ran,
No. Continue.
the last time he ran for the presidential race, he and a team of scientists, I think he put together this like documentary. If I don't know, it's
We
been a while
watched it
since-
in seventh
Yeah, we
grade.
watched it in seventh
I know
grade
what you're
science.
talking about,
But
I didn't do the worksheet for it.
basically, what
I feel like
he said is that the killing of coral reefs because of rising CO2 levels in the air and trash in the ocean, that the melting of the ice caps is going to basically, there's this water system that keeps the flow of our oceans going in a specific direction, and when you disrupt that and when you make the oceans higher than they actually need to be, you're disrupting the levels of cold and hot water in the ocean. It's going to disrupt this flow. It's going to make the water temporarily too acidic for life to really happen, and it could potentially change it. From the documentary, he said it could lead us into another ice age.
Total
basically.
world of
So now,
thought.
since we covered the main discussion portion of this video, now we're gonna be doing a trivia game. Not just any trivia game. This game is gonna test your mental durability, or else you'll face a deadly consequence. All right.
Deadly.
Hello.
Hello.
Now begins the Mega Climate Change Quiz of Greatness
I'm scared.
and Grossness. So,
Oh boy.
this quiz has 2 rounds. Remove your legs! This quiz has 2 rounds. In the first round, everybody, except for me and Brendan, because we know the answers, will be taking a quiz at energy.gov/article/quiz test your climate change IQ.
Get your phones out now to play at home.
So in the first round, they will all be taking the quiz, and they will, at the end of the quiz, receive a score out of 10.
Out of 10.
Yes. That score, whoever has the lowest 2 scores after the end of the quiz will move on to round 2. In round 2, they will all be the 2 lowest scorers will be receiving quotes that we have obtained from politifact.com, and they will have to guess.
Hold on. So if the 2 people who do the best on this quiz don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And they will be receiving quotes from politifact.com that all relate to climate change, and they will have to give whether they are true, mostly false, or false. Are we all ready to begin?
I'm ready.
Ready to begin.
Thank you. Can I
Can we just
go?
start? Can we just do it?
Begin the quiz.
I'm doing it.
All right. At the end of round 1, our scores are Cole Nelson with 2 out of 10.
I'm stupid.
Levi Robinson with 8 out of 10.
He cheated.
Sophie Tomasi with 2 out of 10. And Christian Vaca with 4 out of 10.
This means that Christian and Levi are safe from the next round. Now, to move on to the next round will be Cole and Sophie in the second round and the final round.
Second and final
The
round.
second and final round.
Yay!
Now we will be beginning round 2. Could the 2 of you please play a quick game of rock, paper, scissors to decide who gets the first quote?
I was totally in time.
That's 1 for Sophie. That's 2 for Sophie. Alright. Our first quote. Food waste is the 3rd largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions from the World Food Program.
Are they both? Are they both?
No, it's just Sophie.
Mostly true.
Nope, it's false.
I was thinking because we were talking about cows earlier.
Okay, quote number 2 for Cole Nelson. The Earth moves closer to the sun every year. You know, the rotation of the Earth. We're moving closer to the sun.
What, false?
That is correct. Cole Nelson has 1 point.
Who's the body? You gotta say who said that. Who said?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Who said?
Moving towards our
Who said? Wait, who said?
Sorry.
It's a ring!
That quote was from Scott Wagner.
All right.
Sophie,
Chapstick.
your quote. Over 97% of the scientific community believe that humans are contributing to climate change. From Don Bayer.
True. Is it mostly true?
It's mostly true. Clean energy employs more than 500,000 Californians. That's nearly 10 times more the number of coal mining jobs that exist in the entire nation.
Mostly true.
I already asked you this.
Exactly.
Okay, that was the wrong one. First time you said it, you said the wrong answer.
Yeah, I did.
Sophie Tomassi.
Yeah. Well, I think
The Obama-Clinton war on coal has cost Michigan over 50,000 jobs.
Donald Trump said that, didn't he? Mostly false.
Sorry, it's false. Coal.
Yes.
Asia has less fresh water per capita than any other continent except Antarctica.
False.
Mostly true.
You're telling me Africa's got more?
Yes.
Shit, that's
Maybe a
rough.
big place.
Sophie,
Yeah.
the Obama administration's regulatory assault on coal-fired energy has put thousands of Americans out of work. From Roy Blunt.
False.
Mostly false.
Seems like a meme.
Cole Nelson. Koch Industries is among the worst in toxic
Excuse you. Do we have to bleep this out?
in the entire United States and churns out more climate-changing greenhouse gases than oil giants Chevron, Shell, and Valero.
What
From Harry
industry
Reid.
again?
Koch Industries.
Spelled out.
Koch.
Okay.
I think it's pronounced Coke, actually.
Mostly false.
Mostly true.
I don't.
Sophie. A quote from Derek Crow, where he says that. So, the score is currently tied. Cole 1, Sophie 1. In the tiebreaker round, I'm going to read a quote, and both of you will have to give the same answer. And we'll continue going until one of you gets a point.
Give the same answer.
No, one of you
The correct
both.
answer. If
We'll
we-
have to
as
give,
soon as
you
one of
all
us
have to give an
messes
answer.
up, we lose.
And as soon as one of you gets it right and one of you gets it wrong, the round ends and we have our loser.
Blood so shared.
Okay, we're going to start right now. Al Gore said 70% of
False.
Florida is in drought on Monday, June 5th, 2017.
True.
Both of you are wrong. It's mostly true.
I hate that.
Al Gore said
False.
majority of President Trump's supporters and voters wanted the United States to stay in the Paris Agreement.
False.
False.
You're both wrong. It's mostly false. Kevin De Leon has said clean. That was a question.
Whatever you're gonna say, Sophie.
Debbie
say
Wasserman
mostly.
Schultz said Syria and Nicaragua are the only nations that didn't sign the Paris Agreement. Nicaragua said it wasn't tough enough.
False.
True.
Sophie is correct. It's Cole is our loser.
Oh. Okay, so we are now.
Our game has ended. Sophie and Cole have competed. Cole has lost. And now we begin the construction of our forfeit. We start with corn, a food, like all of the rest of these foods, that is in danger of being lost due to climate change.
Oh, don't add too much. Don't add too much.
That's just corn juice.
No, there's a good amount of corn in there, buddy.
I think you need a little bit more.
Oh God.
Oh, there you go.
I hate
good.
Next, we come to apples, which are also in danger of being lost. I'm going to cut this down a little bit because we don't want too much apple.
Oh boy.
We next move on to guacamole, which is endangered because of the avocados, which are its main component.
I'm
You're gonna need
literally
a
so
spoon for
sorry
that
that
one.
this is happening to you.
Oh no.
Cole,
Next,
Good luck, brother.
do you?
I'm gonna take this like a man.
our next ingredient is
No man can handle this.
maple syrup,
Please add so much maple syrup.
which is,
Add so much.
again, endangered
Add
due to
it,
climate
add
change.
so much.
And we're good.
No, the more you add, the better this will taste.
No.
More than that, please.
There's gotta be an emulsifier in this.
No, here.
Next.
Here, we'll go with plenty.
Bananas.
With chopsticks.
Yes, with chocolate. Ooh, it's got a real pungent odor.
Wait, let me get a smell.
Next, we come to honey, which is endangered because bees are dying by the thousands, the millions.
I mean, at least it's banana honey. I hate honey.
At least it's good for your voice. Yo, I watched you go through all of the stages of grief, like already.
Chocolate sauce, which is endangered as well,
Add so much.
mostly due to
Add
deforestation in the
so
Amazon.
much chocolate.
You missed the facts.
Yes. I'm hoping there will just be like a
Here's
sweet,
the fact
a
is that
sweet,
Cole cannot
like,
survive
taste
this.
that
A
will
bittersweet.
overwhelm it, you know?
Our final ingredient,
Not final.
potato chips. Oh no, not our final ingredient. Sorry.
Oh,
Second to last
God, I
ingredient.
just got a whiff. It just like,
Second to
No,
last
it
ingredient,
smells-
potato chips, which
oh.
the potato
It smells
chips
like
themselves are
guacamole.
not endangered. It's the potato.
You
gotta
would have
walk.
forgotten. He would have forgotten. You would have been sick.
You got a bunch of cure in hand on those.
They're all like,
Endangered.
That's endangered to
there's
climate
only
change.
two of them.
Our last ingredient, seafood, which in this form we're using sushi.
Kroger's sushi.
Endangered due to overfishing
Oh God, I can smell it.
and the warming of the oceans. Hold the sushi.
Now make sure you add some water to.
Now let's add some water very quickly.
Water is endangered.
Yo,
Just
no,
put it in
no,
the-
just
it's
put
in
it
the
in
glass.
That's a good idea. Yes.
Wait, you.
All right, someone
No,
get a
make it
second.
visible for him.
Someone get a
Here,
second
Cole,
glass
Cole,
for me to
Cole,
drink
here, I'll
some
do-
water. Thank you.
Oh.
Someone get
It's
a
all-
second glass for me to drink some water.
You guys have water for this, right?
Yeah.
No.
Because I'm gonna need water after this.
Oh God.
Oh.
I think we're doing
Cole.
liquefy, correct?
All right,
You're a brave
here we
man.
go.
Please don't break.
And I was so like, I'll take it like a man. Someone get me a second glass with
All
water
right,
in
here
it
you
right
go.
now.
Cole, have a nice sniff.
No, I don't want to smell it before.
Wait.
Someone get me a second glass with water.
Yeah. No. Can we? Someone.
Someone get me a second glass with
Brendan,
water.
can we get him a second?
Yeah, guys, get him a second glass. No.
Guys, you're yelling and I feel like we're being really annoying.
It's okay. Oh man, it's.
Anyone got Febreze? I need some water. Use up in here.
All right, let's pour.
Oh, the pores
watch.
always.
No, that's a lot. That's a lot, Kieran.
I'm not finishing
Are we
it.
doing anything with it? Like,
You gotta finish it, Cole.
It's bubbling. It is bubbling.
All right, I think we're gonna set the rule. You have to take a gulp. You can't
no,
just sip.
no. You will kill this man right here, right now.
If I have to take a gulp, so
I
do
think
you.
this, like,
Because
promotes
neither of you
climate
had to play
change.
this.
No one wants to drink that.
I will concede to that.
Because neither of you actually.
You know what?
had to play the
I'll
game.
take a. I'll do it along with Cole.
I know you have a strong stomach. Cole.
I do.
Cole.
But I've never
It's
done
about to be
this.
tested.
Oh God.
Oh God.
That was not a gulp.
He's surviving.
Oh God, it comes in wit.
Oh my god, please no. Oh my god, please no. Oh my god, please no.
Pretty sure this promotes climate change. No
Oh,
one wants to drink
God.
that.
Oh my god.
Oh.
He doesn't care.
You guys were gonna make me do this if I lost. Oh my god.
Cole.
That was not a gulp. Son,
You want to take a sip of that?
I'll take a sip
No.
if you take a gulp.
don't do that.
I'm not. I
Don't.
can't.
Here, Brendan, you said you were gonna do it, so I'll take
No, I
this. And
haven't
you're gonna
lost,
do it.
but
All right, I'm gonna go.
This
after
is
Kieran.
because the reason they're doing this is because they didn't even play.
thumbs up.
else is upset.
That was a hearty sip. Oh no! God, please no! Oh God, please no! I'm begging you not to. I'm begging you not to. I'm begging you not to.
Don't do this.
Apple.
Oh, it's the aftertaste. It's the aftertaste.
Isn't it? Because you taste everything. Like the first thing.
Oh
you
God! Oh
taste,
God!
The,
Oh no!
the first
Oh
thing
no!
you taste is sweet, right? Because the sweet hits you, and then the sushi hits.
There's an overpowering taste of chocolate, and then there's fish.
Oh, I didn't get that. I didn't get any chocolate. I just
Oh, you
got
want to
fish.
take another sip?
Wait, guys, it's Brendan's turn.
Oh, it looks like Italian dressing.
No, it looks like vomit. It looks like someone threw up in a glass.
You hate yourself.
Oh God, here it comes.
He's crying. Don't smell it before. It makes it just.
Brennan.
It just,
Oh my God! He can't even read. Oh my God! You're gonna kill him.
just do it, dude. You just have to. You just have to go.
Swallow.
Just swallow it.
Oh my God! Please don't vomit. I'm begging you. I'm begging you.
Here's some water.
Oh my God. There was. Oh. There was immediate rejection from that. It immediately wanted out. And now it's there. Oh my God.
That happened to me too.
I think I'm good though. God. I think this is good. There should be sold in restaurants.
No,
Well, I think we've discovered something today.
that human beings are idiots and will do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Climate change.
Climate change. Not
Good for all.
No, not good for all.
Bad for all.
Yeah.
So in conclusion,
Oh God.
Yeah.
Taking a smell just almost made me.
in conclusion, don't blend together all of those foods and drink it. And also, climate change is a real issue. Today and tomorrow.
Alright, and to wrap up the video, we got to go to a place called the Flying Pigs Farm, and we got to talk to a man by the name of Greg Dietrich, who runs the establishment.
What kind of things do you grow here?
I raise cows here, and goats, and some chickens, turkeys. I grow hay to feed the animals. I grow some corn. That's about it.
So, say you got an abnormal amount of rainfall in a year, like too much or too little. How would that affect the growth of the corn and the hay?
It too much rain doesn't affect it that much. It affects the ability to get it out of the field because it'll be awful muddy. If it's a drier year, it doesn't grow near as good because the needs more water. A lot of people irrigate their land now because of that. But as far as too much rain, there's not a whole lot you can do about that.
And what about temperatures? Say it gets it's way hotter or way colder one year. Does that affect the way that the returns you're gonna get from corn or hay?
You need heat days to make corn grow better. If it's colder, you won't get as much yield as you do when it's warm. You can burn it if it gets too dry because of the heat. When it's colder, the animals need more protein. You'll need more shelter, but not a whole lot.
And then, so I'm assuming, this is the amount of land that this amount of animals needs. If you add, like 10 extra of each kind of animal, how much more land would you need for that?
On a cow, It takes about an acre per cow to have enough grass for the year for that cow. As far as the goats, they don't take. You can put about 10 goats on 1 acre. You'll still need to subsidize hay for the animals in the winter, but that's about what it takes during the normal year.
So cows among basically everything are gonna take the most land of basically all of it.
That's correct.
And how much does a cow eat, roughly during a year?
Cow will eat probably 25 to 30 pounds of hay.
In a
day.
year? Oh, in a day. In
Yep.
a day. Okay.
They drink about 15 gallons of water a day. So in a year's time, it all depends on how much grass they have to eat, what you feed.
So would like a ton of hay for a cow be too much? Or maybe half a ton is more reasonable.
In a year's time, they'd probably eat a ton of hay per cow.
And you have 5 cows?
I've got 45.
Oh, you got 45 cows. Okay. Well, and that's 45 tons of hay. And how much land does that take just to get the hay for that?
For the area that we have for the amount of animals, we have about 250 acres. I don't have quite enough hay for everything.
So you have to buy from other people to get the
I do.
Okay.
Most of my animals are just strictly grass-fed. They get a little protein in the fall time of the year to get through the winter.
How much, obviously chickens don't need a ton of space, but, why not? How much do, the goats or the chickens or some of the smaller animals generally eat?
The chickens, if you have enough grass, a chicken will live on the grass without any additives. A laying hen, she'll lay about 6 eggs a week on the average. When they hatch, it takes about 4 to 5 months before that chicken will lay an egg. If you feed them some, chickens will eat about it. They're scrap eaters. Homegrown, pre-raised chicken, the yolk of the egg will be more yellow than a store-bought egg.
Will things in their environment affect how many eggs they'll lay in a certain period of time?
If they're spooked, they'll quit laying eggs for about a week. They go through a time in the year that they call molting, but they won't lay any eggs for about 60 days.
Is there any other aspects that an environment change in terms of maybe the temperature, or too much rainfall, or it's too dry, or something like that would affect some of the other animals?
As long as you can provide cover and enough added nutrients for everything, it just requires a little more if it's a dry year. Wet year, it's muddy out.
And then in the end, would that factor into a little bit more cost?
Yes, somewhat. You have to bed the animals when it's and you'll have to move them more because they tear up the land quite a bit when it's wet.
And are irregularities like that common, or is it generally hold pretty steady?
Certain things that you plan on every year. It's going to be a wet time of the year or a dry time of the year. This time of the year right now in the fall, it's going to be a wet it just gets wet. And it's pretty much wet now until it freezes up. It's changed some. It's warmer now than it usually is at this time of the year, I guess you'd say. But some things are just put off different. But it's not a whole lot of there's not a lot of change you come to expect it.
I think that's good.
I think we got a lot of good.
That's good.
Well,
Okay,
thank you for your time. This is
Thank you.
a lot.